The story opens with a confused girl questioning the protagonist about who he truly is, and he simply declares himself an ordinary failure, a mediocre C-rank magic student. Walking away from her, he congratulates himself in his head for handling the situation so perfectly. But to understand this moment, the story rewinds a little. At the Royal Academy of Magic, Rina, the magic history instructor, announces a mock battle and orders the students not to hold back, as the results will determine the class divisions. Among the participants is Ichino Xian, a second-year C-class student. Facing his opponent, he remarks that it has been a while since his last mock battle and decides to enjoy himself. Rina signals the start of the battle, and both students immediately unleash their magic. Their first clash comes in the form of a fierce wind blade. From that exchange alone, Xian's opponent realizes that Xian's power is roughly on par with his own. Just as his opponent prepares to act, Xian launches a series of fireballs. The opponent is briefly stunned but quickly realizes they are beginner-level spells and raises a flame vortex shield. However, as he deals with the fireballs, Xian immediately follows up with a water ball. When the water collides with the flaming shield, a thick cloud of steam erupts, obscuring the opponent's vision and leaving him nearly blind. He scrambles, trying to use his magic to escape the situation, but he's shocked to notice Xian preparing his next move. When his eyes land on Xian's hands, he sees no magical trace there. Convinced that he has run out of mana, the guy believes his chance to win has finally arrived, but it suddenly dawns on him that those raised hands were only a deception meant to fool him. Xian's real spell is being channeled through his feet, and a lightning bolt is already forming, aimed straight at him. He can't comprehend how Xian managed all this in such little time, but to escape it, he hastily throws up an earth wall in front of himself, forming a defensive barrier. It comes together painfully slowly since the activation itself is a slow process. Suddenly, another fireball hurtles toward his head from Xian's direction. Scoffing, the opponent shouts that such childish spells will never defeat him and counters by summoning a torrent of water. To his surprise, it seems that Xian cancelled his move. It leaves the opponent baffled, and his confusion only deepens when Xian makes no attempt to dodge, allowing the raging wave to crash directly into him. Rina watches the entire battle unfold in silence. In the end, the victor is Theodore, Xian's opponent. As Xian leaves the arena, Rina's gaze follows him for a moment. She has known him for 3 years, yet something about him has always felt off. Officially, his abilities are rated C rank, but she has never been fully convinced. His composure and the way he carries himself simply do not match someone with such ordinary talent. More than that, during the battle, she had the distinct feeling that he possessed a hidden technique, one he deliberately chose not to use. Now she finds herself wondering who he truly is beneath the surface. As it turns out, those are the thoughts running through Xian's own mind. He is certain that Rina is thinking precisely this as he walks away. The overthinking is truly elite, because he believes that showing in a match that you have a counterattack ready, and then deliberately not using it, is more than enough to confuse your opponent. But the truth is, at that moment he genuinely couldn't manage anything more. As he's walking, he passes by a door and overhears some voices talking. He's surprised to learn that, according to them, his magical powers didn't seem particularly impressive, but they admit that Xian used his magic with real cleverness, which counts as a genuinely good trait within his class. This makes Xian feel as though he's accomplished something truly remarkable. The voices coming from inside the room belong to Theodore and his friend, who are still confused about Xian's powers. Theodore mentions that after the match he had a conversation with Xian. When he asked him directly why he suddenly canceled the attack he was about to land, Xian told him that he was simply overestimating him because he genuinely fought with everything he had. But inside the room, Theodore tells his friend that he suspects Xian might actually be hiding his true abilities. Hearing this, Xian grins to himself because his purpose here has now been fulfilled. With that, he heads back to the student dormitory. By this point, we've come to realize that our protagonist holds zero hidden power whatsoever. A certified local fraud. He was born into a merchant family, and his abilities genuinely sit around C rank. Right now, due to the damage from the battle, his condition has worsened considerably. Looking back at his childhood, he developed a deep love for mages, and reading their stories sparked a real interest within him. This interest grew into a passion from a very young age. By the time he turned 14, many things had begun influencing him heavily. Because of one particular incident, he fell seriously ill, which left him trapped in delusion. As in the previous battle, he managed to convince everyone there that he was hiding some secret power, essentially gaslighting the entire student body. At present, he strikes the right pose and declares himself the strongest mage around. He's caught in the same misunderstanding that he is actually an SSS top-rank mage, just like his inspirations, while simply living a C-rank life and concealing his supposed true abilities. Just then, someone knocks at the door and asks for permission to come in. It's his childhood friend, the Academy's #1 ranked S-Class mage, Yufi. She comes in and starts the chat with a question, then mentions that she heard about his mock battle, which is why she's brought him a recovery potion. She also tells him to take better care of himself, since he's still only C class. He brushes her comment aside and tells her that even Yufei cannot comprehend the dormant power sleeping within him. The absolute audacity is impressive, gesturing toward himself as he claims that she will soon receive proof of it herself. After a moment of surprise, she breaks into a smile, blushing as she tells him she'll wait for that moment, which brings Cheyenne a real sense of mental relief. She then mentions that Cheyenne probably hasn't eaten yet, so the two of them should get some food together. As soon as Cheyenne and Yufei leave together, the whole academy starts talking. Everyone is surprised that a C-class student is walking with an S-class girl. Cheyenne feels the situation is very grand and impressive. At the same time, he tries to act calm as if he is protecting his secret power. Yufei looks at his face and realizes he is once again lost in strange thoughts, like his mind is loading. She has known him for years and understands he became a very unusual person 3 years ago. In the cafeteria, they see upper-class students bullying a weaker C-class student named Roni. They are forcing him not to sit and eat there. Yufei tells Xian that this kind of behavior is wrong, but when she looks again, Xian is already gone. He has walked straight to Roni and asks to sit with him. The bullies now target both of them. Xian ignores their insults and tells them that the truly worthless people are standing right in front of him. This makes the upper-class students very angry. One of them steps forward and punches Xian hard in the face, making him fall to his knees. The bully says this is a lesson for him, but Xian stands up again and says that maybe in magic, the bully is stronger, but judging people only by magic power is meaningless. He says even weak people have their own way of living, something these upper-class students don't understand. Then Xian says this is actually a good chance to teach the bully a lesson in getting punched. He walks up calmly and asks the bully if he wants to sit and eat together. The bully becomes scared and his face turns pale. Xian looks at him with a serious expression. The bullies feel frightened and all run away. They feel Xian is not normal at all, but Xian thinks he only changed his eye color using magic. He believes this made him look like a powerful SS rank mage again, and he becomes even more confident in his delusion. Soon after, Yufei comes to check on him. Roni apologizes and says they should take Xian to the nurse. Xian refuses and says this is nothing compared to his training. Yufei scolds him again and tells him to stop doing dangerous things. Xian feels like she is acting like his mother. Then Xian says that whenever his classmates are in trouble, he will always help them. This makes Yufei blush because she knows he has always been like this since childhood. He then tells her that as thanks for worrying about him, he will treat her to food. Roni is deeply shocked. He feels amazed that Xian saved him and also has a close relationship with an S-class girl. He becomes emotional and asks Xian who he really is. Xian calmly replies that he is just an ordinary C-class magic student. Roni becomes very impressed and emotional after hearing this. During the meal, Roni feels happy and surprised while eating with Yufei for the first time. Even though Xian is truly just a C-class student, it is hinted that one day he will become someone who saves the entire academy from a huge disaster. The scene shifts a few days later to the Royal Academy of Magic, where this year's exam results are announced. Everyone gathers to check their ranks based on the 5 magical disciplines. It feels like the annual day of academic depression. Xian stands among them, watching as Yufei's name appears at the very top. While he processes this, Yufei walks over and asks how his exam went this time. He replies that it was decent enough. At that moment, his own name appears on the results board, 145 points, with 49 in every type of magic except water. This makes Yufei angry as she questions whether he did it on purpose. He insists it is a coincidence. Despite having no hidden power, he continues to deceive himself and those around him through carefully calculated behavior. Maintaining his composed aura, he walks away. Yufei calls after him and asks if he is free tomorrow. He replies that he is. Without wasting time, she hesitates briefly before inviting him to go book shopping with her. He declines, saying he already has other plans. Yufei accepts, though she is clearly disappointed. Xian, still trapped in his delusion, thinks to himself that an enemy awaits elimination and leaves. The next day, Xian boards a train departing from the academy. He behaves as though he is on a special mission, silently watching over the passengers like an unpaid, self-appointed security guard. After some time, he arrives at the royal capital. Once there, he visits the marketplace. While walking through it, his attention lands on a narrow alley. He pauses and glances toward it, as if carefully considering something or forming a plan. Following this dark silence, he enters the alley and calls out for whoever is there to step forward, stating that he has come this far only to settle this person's death. At that moment, a mysterious figure steps out, smirking, and questions how Xian knew about him. Xian replies that he figured it out the moment he stepped off the train and declares that he will finish him here. The sorcerer reveals that he has come to take Xian's life and prepares his attack, suddenly hurling dark thunder arrows toward him. Typical villain behavior. Shine absorbs them completely with a single gesture, remaining unharmed. In response, he unleashes a dangerous magic attack. It knocks the sorcerer unconscious, and a massive explosion engulfs the area, finishing him off completely. Afterward, Shine feels satisfied, as though he has fully lived out the moment, and begins planning his next move while standing there. It is important to note that Shine believes himself to be the strongest mage of his era. He also holds the delusion that he is a member of a dark mystical guild called the Abominable Phantoms. In his mind, he is the main character of an original story he has created for himself. Standing alone in the alley laughing, he draws notice from nearby people, local citizens questioning their life choices. Now standing there, he thinks he needs a finishing touch here when suddenly someone collides with him, a girl who falls to the ground from the impact. The moment he questions her about her condition, she shows no particular concern about it and stands back up. At that point, Shine's eyes fall upon a necklace hanging around her neck, which looks quite valuable. But the girl angrily tells him that he should watch himself and, calling herself a busy woman, runs off from there. As soon as she walks away, he realizes that perhaps this truly is the very girl he's searching for. So he enters his delusional mode again, activating his imaginary magic. Through this, he attempts to bind the girl to himself, trapping her within his web in order to read her thoughts. The girl becomes visibly troubled as Cheyenne begins reading her mind, or at least what he believes he is doing. In his perception, he is bypassing any privacy barriers and accessing her hidden thoughts. He then sees hazy visions. Inside a castle, guards stand outside a door while the girl rests on a bed. A maid arrives and informs her that she has dinner with nobles and should prepare. The girl wishes to go shopping in the city afterward, but she is told her schedule is fully packed for the next year, which she considers a form of imprisonment. She dismisses her maid so she can change, but the maid insists there is no time and urges her to hurry. After the maid leaves, the girl begins acting on a plan that makes the maid suspicious. However, by the time the maid returns, she has already escaped using a rope. Sheen concludes that he fully understands her situation and snaps out of his delusion, releasing her. He remarks that she is a classic runaway princess who has fled her castle, then speaks to her again as if continuing a conversation in his mind. At this point, it becomes clear that Cheyenne tends to turn ordinary people into the main characters of his imagined world. He refocuses on what he believes is his next mission and heads toward the abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city. After arriving, he stands on the rooftop and scans the area as if waiting for a dangerous threat. It feels like an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. He mutters to himself, waiting for the right moment to deliver lines he has prepared in advance. As the sun sets, he envisions himself as a great secret hero of the Abominable Phantoms Guild. He laughs dramatically to himself and remains there for hours while his misunderstanding continues unchecked. Eventually, he looks down and spots thugs chasing a girl. Upon closer inspection, he recognizes her as the same girl he met in the marketplace. She trips and falls face first onto the ground. These thugs tell her that today is their lucky day, because they can capture her and collect quite a hefty price for her. The local budget villains speak, but the girl tries to stop them from coming closer, and one of these thugs, who appears to be their leader, dismisses her words entirely. They approach closer to this girl, intimidating her, but she calls out for help to escape them. They don't listen to her either, reaching toward her with both hands. Suddenly, Xian gets his moment for a hero's entrance, and standing there he mentions that it looks like these people are having some kind of party here. The uninvited party crasher arrives. Then, leaping down from there, he lands on the ground, asking whether he too could join in on all of this with them. As soon as he arrives, the thugs demand to know who he is. Xian responds by asking what they think he could possibly be, then casually lists a long string of imagined achievements from his own fantasy. The display is painfully over the top. At that point, the girl recognizes him as well. The thugs mock both of them, questioning whether they know each other. Their leader remarks that if Shine is her acquaintance, they will deal with him too. Shine remains composed and dismisses the threat casually, which only makes the leader more furious. Internally, he tells himself he has been waiting for this moment for a long time. Out loud, he declares that he will take all three of them down at once, fully immersed in his self-assigned role. The leader sends one of his henchmen forward. A large, wrestler-like man cracks his knuckles as he steps up. Cheyenne, meanwhile, feels excited, since this matches the kind of scenario he has always imagined. However, as he observes the mana building in the opponent, a chill runs down his spine. He recognizes the spell as a B-tier flamethrower-type magic and begins to genuinely worry that he might die here. Looking back at the situation, Shine is someone living inside his own imagined world, with no real exceptional power, yet trapped in a persistent delusion. The thugs notice his hesitation and ask if he is scared. Shine mocks them in response, staying in character, which only angers them further. Internally, he realizes his spells are not activating in time, and decides he will have to use that instead. The thug then orders him to hand the girl over, promising to spare his life if he complies. Cheyenne rejects the offer and challenges him instead, asking what kind of man would run when someone in front of him needs help. The girl's moved by his words, while even the thug seems entertained. Internally, he reflects that he has always dreamed of becoming a sorcerer who saves others, and if he cannot protect anyone now, none of it would matter. Just as the henchman prepares his spell, Cheyenne interrupts him and tells him not to overextend his energy. He continues provoking them, implying that he's hiding his full strength while internally panicking at his own bravado. Another thug suggests finishing him off immediately, and the leader agrees, ordering that nothing of him be left behind. Cheyenne continues escalating the tension with heroic declarations, claiming he will show them what real magic looks like. He brings his hands together, forms a magical circle, and draws out a sword from within it. Dangerous flowing energy surrounds the blade as he points it toward them, its edge humming with a sharp resonance. He then rests the sword on his shoulder and glances sideways at the thugs. The look alone drains the color from their faces. Cheyenne calls them forward, challenging them to attack. As one henchman begins to lunge, the leader abruptly stops him, his voice trembling as he warns that they may not realize who they are dealing with. The henchman is confused, but the leader insists there is no mistake. He declares that the man before them is a member of the Abominable Phantoms Guild, a ruler of the dark underworld, and the so-called ultimate swordsman known as the Crimson-Eyed Fiendblade. At this point, the thugs completely lose their composure. In reality, none of it is true. Cheyenne has only applied a color-changing spell to his eyes, while the sword is a low-tier blade and the surrounding energy is nothing more than a harmless illusion effect. However, Cheyenne's commitment to the act and his sharp delivery convince them otherwise. The thugs drop to their knees and beg for mercy. Hearing the new title, Cheyenne secretly finds it impressive, though he maintains his composed aura and questions whether they are truly asking for forgiveness after everything they have done. He refuses their plea and decides to push their fear even further. The pressure intensifies as they break down completely, sweating and pleading, promising to abandon their wrongdoing. Cheyenne responds that their past is irrelevant. What matters is what they did to the girl and the fact that they disrespected him for standing in their way. For that alone, he says, they deserve punishment. He steps closer with a more intimidating expression and asks whether they will truly give up their ways. Overwhelmed, they swear that they will abandon everything. Cheyenne warns them that if they break this promise, no matter what corner of the world they flee to, he'll hunt them down and kill them. Bringing the tip of his sword dangerously close to one thug's eye to frighten him further, he asks if they understand. They agree, and with one gesture from Cheyenne, all three of them flee from there to save their lives. After they leave, he returns to his normal state and walks over to the girl, immediately asking if she is okay. She pauses for a moment before snapping at him in anger, saying nothing about the situation was fine. She explains that she could not see anything during the fight and insists that all he did was pull out a sword to intimidate them. She adds that she could have handled everything herself, then sarcastically thanks him for wasting her time. When she asks for his name, it becomes clear that their personalities are completely different, and she realizes he is not the heroic type she expected. Cheyenne, however, delivers another dramatic line and continues to view himself as a legend in his own mind. The girl remarks that whatever he is still better than the thugs. She then allows him to walk with her, and he agrees. As they walk, Cheyenne tries to start a conversation, but she shuts him down immediately, resulting in an awkward silence. On a bridge over the canal, she tells him that since he helped her, she wants to reward him. When Cheyenne begins to respond, she cuts him off again. He gradually realizes she speaks with the tone of someone from a royal background. She then removes a necklace from her neck and offers it to him. Cheyenne finds it impressive, but refuses while maintaining his composed demeanor. She insists that it is nothing special for someone like her, as such items are common within her estate. When she offers it again, he declines once more, which irritates her. After a brief exchange, he finally accepts the gift in a more formal manner, locking eyes with her, which causes her to blush. When they reach the marketplace, she realizes she is likely being searched for. Cheyenne also decides to part ways there. Before leaving, she asks who he really is. He turns back and simply says his name is Cheyenne and that he is an ordinary C-rank sorcerer. She is shocked to learn he is a student and tells him he should focus more on his studies. In response, Cheyenne tells her to get lost and walks away, leaving her watching him go. As he heads back, he thinks to himself that this was the perfect farewell line. Any remaining politeness is gone. He then reflects that the girl must be from a royal family. At that moment, her maid arrives, coincidentally the same one he had previously imagined. She immediately fusses over the girl, who explains she ran into trouble but was saved by a strange person, which the maid finds hard to believe. The maid then urges her to return to proper etiquette, mentioning that she is the third princess of the Gilbert Kingdom, Princess Luna. Together, they head back through the alleys toward the palace. The very next morning, before the light has even fully spread across the sky, Cheyenne begins his day with an imaginary interview. When the interviewer asks him questions, he answers them properly. Delusions require zero initial investment. He talks about his lack of sleep and his recovery potion. Someone asks him where he's going, to which he answers that he's going for his training. He begins practicing fireball spells, pushing with tremendous effort to increase the power of his magic spell. The next question put to him is exactly what he's doing, to which he explains that he's refining his magic control further. After pushing himself to his limit, they question him about whether he's deliberately reducing his own mana, and if so, then why. He answers while panting, confirming that this is true. In the first 3 years he nearly got himself killed so many times doing this that he's lost count. Rather than laughing about it, he explains that he trains until he's barely conscious. Once his mana runs dry, he uses a potion to recover. He picks up a magical theory book while waiting for his mana to recover. Then after some time he begins his intense exercise and practice all over again, working tirelessly. His imaginary interviewer asks one final question, what this training means to Cheyenne. In a heroic pose, he answers that if he has to say anything, he can only say that this is the awakening through which he is waking up his true potential. Just then, Yufei arrives, walking in a half-asleep state, questioning whether he's doing his dangerous training again today. She hands him a potion so he can recover, then sits right there and starts dozing off. All of this is quite unexpected. Every single day, without fail, Cheyenne pushes himself to his absolute limit. But she knows that if even a tiny fraction of natural magical talent exists within him, then nothing can stop Cheyenne from reaching the top rank. After a while, Yufei mentions that she's heading back, hoping that Cheyenne's hard work will pay off one day. The next day, when the sun is high overhead, a commotion spreads through the academy. While walking through the corridor, Cheyenne runs into his professor, who tells him that she has been waiting for him. She asks him to retrieve some equipment from the laboratory, and he agrees without hesitation. She then directs him to the upper laboratory and tells him to bring back what she needs. As Cheyenne inserts the key into the lock, it occurs to him that whoever entered before must not have locked it. The door swings open, and his eyes land exactly where they shouldn't. He freezes on the spot. Inside, a girl is right in the middle of changing. She freezes at the exact same moment. For several seconds, both of them remain frozen in place while the girl's face turns completely red with embarrassment. Meanwhile, Cheyenne suddenly bursts into loud evil laughter and dives straight back into one of his delusions. Declaring that he will never allow himself to be controlled by someone like her, he starts acting as though she had attempted to dominate his mind but failed spectacularly. The girl has absolutely no idea what kind of nonsense he's talking about. Main character syndrome hits hard. Still fully committed to the act, Cheyenne activates his eye color changing magic once again and continues his bizarre performance. Deepening his voice into an entirely different tone, he presents himself as though no greater supervillain exists in the world than him. The girl cannot understand a single word he's saying. She simply stands there, frozen, listening to the madness unfold. Suddenly, Cheyenne attempts to slip out through the door. The moment he reaches for it, an unknown spell instantly stops him. The girl cast it herself. She warns him that one wrong word and she'll blast his head off. Cheyenne instantly breaks into a cold sweat. Internally, he's screaming that he's genuinely going to die here. Externally, however, he maintains a calm expression and quickly agrees to her demand. The girl then begins humiliating him over his ridiculous behavior. She informs him that she ranks 5th in the academy. Despite that, Cheyenne still had the audacity to secretly watch her while she was changing. Cheyenne responds by asking what exactly she wants from him in return. The question irritates her slightly, but he asks again how he can earn her forgiveness. She tells him that he will have to endure the same humiliation she went through. Cheyenne receives no further explanation. Taking it the wrong way, he begins untying his clothes. After removing his jacket, he reaches for his belt. The girl immediately turns away in embarrassment. Common sense has left him. Cheyenne explains that since it seemed like she had seen him, he assumed she wanted to see him the same way. She firmly states that absolutely nothing of the sort is happening. Then she finally reveals what she actually meant. She plans to make him eat the dust off her shoes, because she, Eliza, is challenging him to a duel.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.